Bipolar, aka the Option Addict, from over at www.tradingaddicts.com. Here to kick it off another weekly watch list. Let's start off with a little bit of market analysis. S&P up for 5 straight days. This week I'm looking for a pullback. Looking across the broad market here, just looking at a lot of individual stocks, there's an awful lot of stocks that are not trading at the same levels in that the S&P is. S&P trading at new yearly highs. There's a tremendous amount of stocks out there that are not. Right now I've got my eye on financials, which really haven't participated much through this leg of the rally. Not only that, but I'm also watching oil stocks. I mean, those were really some of the stronger plays that we saw later this week. And you know what? I look at this pattern here just by using the USO, this triangle shape formation that occurred not too long ago. We saw a slight breakdown of that, and then a rally back up and a retest, and prices are rolling over pretty hard here. So, you know, a lot of things are looking pretty weak. The VIX had a pretty nice confirmation off of its recent lows and started firing back up to the upside. So I don't know if this means that we're going to see kind of a bearish week for stocks here. And with stocks being up for 5 straight days, you know, there's not going to be a lot of dip buying setups, you know. So, I mean, as far as any bullish plays I'm looking at this week, I'm going to be playing the small cap game, which is where we've been having a lot of success lately. But most of all, I mean, most of the patterns and stocks you're going to look at kind of have a bearish tone to them, so be prepared. But on that note, let's take a look at a couple of buy the dips, sell the rips, breakouts and breakdowns. Check these out. And then onto my price pattern. So the most bullish setup that I see out there right now is this big, long dated pattern in dry ships. And shippers just seem poised to move. If you look at the, you know, transportation, the IYT, been following that pretty carefully lately. It's one of the few ETFs that support a different group or sector that's trading up near highs. And dry ships, you know, in the last couple of days here, we saw some pretty big volume spikes. And dry ships hasn't had a really good consecutive run like it has here lately. So I don't wonder if prices get outside of that moving average, which also meshes up with the resistance line of this trend line, that we see a big move to the upside. You know, something like we saw going back to April, May, where it made a big move to the upside. So I'm looking at that here this week. Also, the regional banks. BBT is the number one on my list. Let me get rid of all this crap I have drawn here. Kind of a bear flag off of the highs. And, you know, BBT wasn't able to take out its highs. Significant divergence going on here. So, and I also look at just the KRE, which represents regional banks. There's a nice little pattern here of lower highs and lower lows. Just seems like a real easy trade to manage. And for those of you that were on TA Live on Friday, or even if you weren't, we talked about the top 4 unusual volume alerts came off in regional banks like Regions Financial, Key Corp, BBT was one of them, SunTrust was another one. So regional banks ought to get hit pretty hard this week. You know, if I'm getting bearish, I also got to talk about some of the REITs. And Kilroy, KRC, is one of my favorites here to the downside. It's kind of got a little bit of a triangle shaped pattern. And I think this is a great spot to be a little bit anticipatory to bet on some downside from here. You know what, if you want to go just kind of the safer play here, go with the IYR. It's the same setup. Looks like it could be a triple top if the highs hold here and the bottoms give way later on this week. Disclaimer, I've already got a pretty big position here. So I'm also going to look at, let's look at semiconductors, which, you know, the semiconductor index is trading off near its highs. But take a look at CRE, which, you know, we flagged this last week with some unusual call option buying. And I think the reason this one broke down so heavily is that the whisper that this was a likely takeover target, you know, that's kind of subsided here. So looking at this as a potential double top, you know, if prices can get back near 35, 30, you know, 35 and a half, I love it there. But you know what? I don't think it's too late. Based on that volume here, I mean, that's a pretty big sell-off. So I think semis might go a little bit lower. If you're not into that one, take a look at AMSC. Also, a reasonable spot to short here, kind of an anticipatory triple top, if you will. So not a bad spot here to get bearish. And take a look at the SMH. You know, the SMH is just off of its highs, so maybe a pullback a little bit down to its recent lows. Seems reasonable. I also want to keep my eye on the home builders. Now, I've got a long position in a home builder right now that I'm hoping works out, but the way Pulte has turned off of its recent highs here, you'll look and you'll see that 13 level is pretty important looking back. It's almost like a real ugly head and shoulders pattern up here. So I don't think it's a bad spot to get bearish. You can also look at DR Orton, and same thing. You might even argue kind of a triangle, whatnot here, but it's basically what I'm looking at is looking for the homies to pull back here a little bit this week. Last but not least, if you're into day trading a real fast and volatile moving stock, there's AIG. I don't wonder if this guy breaks down, but I don't want to come in with any bias whatsoever if you're trading this thing. I think you got to look for a direction early morning. Maybe even apply some of our value area principles that we discussed on a daily basis to this thing. But I think you got to see some movement out of AIG this week. So that's all I got, folks. I've got a really, really long list of my $10 darlings, so look for a link outside of the video this week. And on that note, hope you all have a great week in your trading. This has been the Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.